Welcome to the Vietnamese Poetry, Literature channel. Today we will listen to the return work of author Thach Lam. Let's listen. This summer, Tam and his wife vacationed at a friend's house in the countryside. When his friend invited him, Tam immediately accepted the invitation, because he planned to find a place to vacation for a month without spending money, and more conveniently, he had the opportunity to visit his home, which was also nearby. That day was sunny but windy. In the morning, after breakfast, Tam and his wife sat on the porch to enjoy the cool breeze. My friend Tam had to leave the province early because of work. He remembered thinking about returning home, but since returning from vacation until now, he kept putting it off. He said to his wife, "Today I have to go home to visit." Wife replied, "What about me? What do I do for the rest of today? Sitting here forever is boring to death. I came back here around 5 o'clock in the afternoon." Tam's wife cooed. "So I'm here alone all day? You're so selfish, you only think about your work, and don't think about me at all." Mind ponders. Wanting to pamper his wife, he said, "Or this is most convenient. My aunt comes with me." Arriving at the station, we turned into Sao Lao to have breakfast. Then she waited for me there. I came home to visit for about an hour, then I came out again. His wife agreed. The two drove their car to the train station about a dozen kilometers away. Arriving there, the two of them walked around the streets, then went to the restaurant to rest. Tam said, "Now wait for me here, I'll go visit the old lady." "Yes, but don't stay too long. Don't forget that I'm waiting for you here." Tam put on his shirt and went out, leaving his wife sitting in the cool room at the restaurant. He followed a red dirt road, with deep green hibiscus trees on both sides. For 5 or 6 years now, my mind has not returned to visit my hometown. During that time, in Hanoi, Tam worked hard to gain a position in society. He got married, the daughter of a rich family, without telling his mother. Occasionally he received a letter from his hometown with scribbled handwriting and rude words. Tam only read it briefly and didn't pay attention. Living in a wealthy and secure situation, Tam never thought about his hometown again. Or think about it, just to make fun of yourself. When you were young, you had a simple and happy life in the countryside. He dreamily fell in love with a village girl, and wished to live together in purity under a thatched hut. That dream now makes him smile when he thinks about it. There is no longer any connection that binds Tam to the countryside. The relatives in the village only made him hate him because of their messy travel and asking for favors. As for his mother, Tam believes that he has done his duty by sending some money to help the old woman every month. He believes even more so when he thinks about the difficulties he had to overcome to get that money. How many lies did he need to hide from his wife? Sometimes he thought he was angry with his mother, because of her he had to hide it like that. However, when approaching the beginning of the village, Tam also felt moved. On both sides of the green rice fields, the wind blew like waves. On the rocky path, the dry ground hardened and cracked in many places. Tam remembered how that soil hurt his tender feet when he was a child going to school every day. A cool feeling suddenly covered his shoulders. Tam raised his head to look, as he walked under the canopy of green bamboo leaves in the alley. Some country children, naked and dark, were playing on the side of the road. When they saw him pass by, they blinked dirty eyes, and wiped their muddy hands on their calves. Thinking that when he was young, he was just a dirty kid like these children, Tam felt proud because he had now completely overcome that level of poverty. When entering the yard, Tam saw that the surroundings were quiet, with no one in sight. The old house is still the same as before, unchanged, just a little lower, and the roof is more shabby. Tam walked across the hill yard and pushed the hut in. The same house he had lived in since childhood. The mind called out. He heard the sound of clogs walking, the same sound of clogs, more leisurely and slower than before. Then Tam's mother walked in. The old lady has aged a lot, but still wears the same old clothes as she did a few years ago. When she recognized her child, the old woman burst into tears. Are you back there? Yes, it's me. Are you still healthy? The words were difficult to get out of my mouth, because Tam saw my indifference. Are you here alone? The old lady was so moved that she couldn't speak. After a moment, she hesitated. Trin is still here with me. Which Miss Trin? Is Miss Trin Uncle Eldest's daughter? Tam vaguely remembered the little girl who used to play with him. I thought she got married. The old lady sat down on the wooden counter and replied. Who did you marry? That crazy girl is dead. There have been several inquiries, but he refused to take it. The old lady was silent for a moment. Sometimes it still mentions you. Tam shrugged and did not answer. Even though it was sunny outside, Tam felt that inside the dampness seemed to be spreading down the walls and seeping into her body. The old lady looked lovingly at her child and asked thoughtfully. Last year, Uncle Eldest came back from the province and told me he was sick. I was so worried, but I didn't know how to stay awake in the countryside, so I didn't dare to visit. Are you completely healthy now? Tam looked outside and replied. As usual. Then wanting to talk about something else, Tam asked. Is there anything strange in the village? The old lady replied. Nothing strange, every day is the same, but having Trin come here with me makes it less sad. She often helps me with a lot of work. She's so thoughtful, diligent. There were sounds of people walking in the garden. The old lady stopped. Maybe it came back there. Then the old lady called out. Is that Trin? Here, Mr. Tam has just come back to visit. A young girl slipped through the door and walked in. Tam looked out and saw a country girl dressed simply, but cleanly. Tam's eyes met her eyes, dark and wide open, looking at him. It's Mr. Tam, don't you remember? Miss Trin smiled. Yes, how could anyone but Mr. Tam forget? As if she had accidentally spoken, the young girl lowered her face, a bit shy. That gesture and words did not move Tam, but made him a little hateful. Did the country girl think he was paying attention? Therefore, Tam asked slightly bluntly. So, what are you waiting for, Miss Trin? Why don't you get married and let me celebrate? Seeing that the girl did not answer, Tam paid attention. He saw that she had not changed. Even though she had grown older, she was still the same girl who played with him when he was young. Tam noticed that, in the countryside, people did not change much, and their personalities remained the same. But you've changed completely. Old memories for him now seem childish and tasteless. Tam doesn't see any passion between him and the old scene anymore. Now, he never had the crazy idea of marrying a country girl like Trin to live a dark and poor life. Tam absent-mindedly listened to her mother tell her about the increasingly difficult work and business practices in the village. He was indifferent and did not pay attention. What does it have to do with Uncle Sin's son getting married, or my uncle dying? His life in the countryside and his life, solid and wealthy, had no connection at all. The story fades away. The old woman's questions and care about his work only made Tam uncomfortable. He answered lightly as a courtesy. Thinking of his wife waiting, Tam quickly stood up. The old lady looked at him urgently. You should stay here and eat first. Come out in the afternoon. Okay, let me go home. This time is very busy with work. Tam consoled again. But if I have a chance, I will come back. Then Tam opened her wallet and took out 4 $5 bills and gave them to her mother. Feeling a bit arrogant, in front of Miss Trin, he said. Exactly 20, you take it and spend it. If there's anything missing, I'll send it back to you. The old woman trembled as she picked up the silver package, with tears in her eyes. Tam pretended not to see anything and quickly walked out. Okay, you stay. Hello Miss Trin. Tell me to ask all my relatives. Once outside, my heart felt lighter. He thought he had completed his duty. When Tam entered the restaurant, his wife's joy showed on her face, because she did not expect him to be so quick. It's still early. The couple invited each other to go sightseeing and wait until the afternoon to go by car to catch the wind. The two of them walked around the street, looking at our shabby water stores and the big shops of the guests. The setting sun shines brightly into the eyes, and shines gold on the thatched roofs. The market is over. The women carrying their burdens are about to leave. The ground is full of dirty garbage, melon peels, and wrapping leaves. A warm smell rises, a special smell, seemingly mixed with the smell of earth, damp, and the smell of burning garbage. Tam remembers her younger days clearly. Suddenly, Tam jumped back. An old woman bent down next to a daughter, walking towards the station. Tam recognized the mother. Perhaps the old lady wanted to see her child again. She probably thought Tam was traveling by train. He looked uncomfortable. What is the old lady still doing here? Tam was afraid that the old lady would cry again, trying to hold him back. Or grab his shirt and tell stories in a crowded place. He thought he heard loud and small comments, and saw everyone's mocking smiles. What will his wife say? Okay, let's go home now. Tam spoke like someone who was impatient, grabbed his wife's arm and walked quickly. Waiting for the old lady to disappear down the street, Tam and his wife returned to the restaurant to pay, then drove out. The engine ran steadily, the car smoothly began to glide over the ground. When he reached the intersection, Tam suddenly saw an old woman standing next to the road, leaning on her daughter. The car splattered mud onto the two people's clothes. For a second, Tam saw the dark eyes of the country girl open wide in surprise, looking at him. Tam did not look back. He thought of his mother, of Miss Trin who still played with him when he was young. But those images seemed very far away, and Tam still felt indifferent and unconcerned. Between those memories and Tam, there seems to be a barrier. The car, his wife, the luxurious and happy life he has now. The landscape of fields on both sides of the road quickly retreated behind him, seeming to further distance him from the old countryside. At the end of the work, please support me with the like button and subscribe to the channel to listen to more works.